MSW Media.
News with swearing. Daily beans, daily beans. Daily beans, daily beans.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Beans for Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. Today, the dominoes are falling as multiple prominent Republicans are criticizing ICE, along with a call for an independent investigation into the murder of Alex Pretti. Moderate Senator Jacky Rosen is calling for Kristi Noem's impeachment. Republican gubernatorial candidate, one of them is withdrawing from the race over ICE presence in Minnesota. DHS says it has the body-worn camera footage of Pretti's murder. Mike Pence calls for an independent investigation into the murder. Governor Abbott has called on the White House to recalibrate ICE. And the Trump administration is now pulling Bovino and all Customs and Border Protection agents out of Minneapolis. I'm Allison Gill.
And I'm Dana Goldberg.
I know it's a small win, but a win nonetheless. Congratulations, Minneapolis, for all of your work. Bovino is leaving.
I mean, incredible. This is how you come together as a community. Grassroots efforts. They trained people. They got together in groups. They told people how to peacefully protest. They told people what they needed to do. And my God, Minneapolis, you may have just set a precedent for the entire country on how to fight this shit. And I could not be more proud of you.
Yeah, and wherever Bovino ends up going, you know, I hope that there's like some Zoom calls and Minneapolis best practices on how to resist properly because y'all did it. So
yes.
Again, it's not over. There's still a lot of work to do. And in fact, this little sort of crack in the armor is now an opportunity for Democrats and leadership and our elected representatives to pounce. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Do not back down. If you were threatening to shut down the government, you still shut down the fucking government. Mm-hmm. You don't go, oh, they're going to pull the agents out of Minneapolis. We're getting it. No. Stay on the offense. I'm tired of us being on defense. I'm tired of us being on our heels. Stay forward. Keep going.
Yeah, it's when they're on their back foot like this that we need to push even harder. Metaphorically speaking, everyone. Don't push people. All right. So it's all coming crashing down right now. Taco Tuesday. Trump always caves, right? It's like a house of cards. Operation Metro Surge is on the verge of being over. Like I said, following the murder and subsequent lies told by this administration, the murder of Alex Pretti. Later in the show, I'm going to talk to Adam Klasfeld from All Rise News about the lawsuit. There was a hearing this morning about Minneapolis and their lawsuit. And even if ICE leaves, I think the judge has asked for more briefing in this case because I think they want to settle the legal question of whether what Trump did with ICE in Minneapolis is violative of the anti-commandeering doctrine of the 10th Amendment, right? Like states' rights, sovereignty, the Federalist United States, that's what we are. So we may actually get to see that legal argument play out, even if ICE completely, or Customs and Border Protection, DHS completely leaves, Operation Metro Surge leaves Minneapolis. But it's a little bit of good news today. We need to take these wins, microdose hope, feel better for a minute, and then, straighten ourselves up and continue to work, like you said, Dana. We have a lot to get to. Let's hit the hot notes. Hot notes. All right, first up from CNN, top Border Patrol official Gregory Bovino and some of his agents are expected to leave Minneapolis tomorrow. That's today, as you're listening to this, and return to their respective sectors, whatever that means. That's according to three sources familiar with the discussions, sidelining a key player in the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. The move comes after Trump announced he was dispatching White House border czar and $50,000 in a kava bag taker Tom Homan to Minneapolis in the wake of Saturday's fatal shooting. The White House has said that Homan is expected to manage ICE operations in the city. One official said it was a mutual decision to have Bovino depart. Sure. Mutual decision. And let's be straight about this, Dana. Trump isn't having Bovino leave because it's the right thing to do. It's because he's making him look bad.
Absolutely.
That's it. This is all about Trump. CNN reached out to the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but didn't hear anything. Administration officials were left deeply frustrated this weekend over how Bovino and Noem Puppy killer Kristi Noem handled the fallout from the fatal shooting, I'd say the murder, the execution of Alex Pretti in Minneapolis. According to one official in the Trump administration, Trump spent several hours on Sunday and Monday watching the coverage and was personally unhappy by how his administration was coming across. Not personally unhappy about the fact that a VA nurse had been executed.
Oh, he doesn't care about any of that shit.
Unhappy by how it made him look. CNN has previously reported that Noem was in touch with the White House throughout the day on Saturday. Others say that Bovino, who became the face of Trump's immigration enforcement operation in Minnesota, and, I mean, let's be real, Portland and Chicago and Los Angeles, he's, wee Himmler. He claimed Pretti intended to massacre federal agents, and the Trump administration said that made matters worse. That's what some officials said, the fact that he said that. He sat for an interview with CNN and held a press conference with reporters Sunday, but neither appearance tamped down the criticism of the administration's response and contradictions. Senior officials began discussing taking Bovino out of Minnesota Sunday, according to one senior official. Aides were also irked after Noem labeled Pretti a domestic terrorist and accused him of brandishing a firearm, a claim that wasn't backed by any video evidence.
Any of the videos, and there's several videos.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt distanced the White House from the domestic terrorist label during Monday's briefing, arguing it was not a position Trump himself personally took. She did not say specifically that Bovino was departing Minnesota, but she said Homan would be the main point of contact on the ground in Minneapolis, and Bovino would continue to lead the Border Patrol agency nationwide. So again, this is a crack in the armor. This is something that people need to take advantage of in leadership right now. I think that's really, really important to emphasize. Trump indicated today there may be a shift in how his administration will handle its immigration crackdown in Minnesota following his call with Governor Walz. Quote, "It was a very good call. We actually seem to be on a similar wavelength," Trump said on Truth Social. In a separate statement, Governor Walz said Trump agreed to consider reducing the number of federal agents in Minnesota and pledged to talk to his Department of Homeland Security about ensuring that state officials and prosecutors can investigate Saturday's fatal shooting.
Good.
Meanwhile, Trump said he's sending border czar Tom Homan, like I said, to Minnesota, and he'll be the main point of contact on the ground. So you're getting rid of Bovino, you're getting Homan, but I don't know.
This whole thing, and Allison, stay with me through this thought because I think you'll follow. It has a weird January 6th feel to me of like all of these Republicans were okay with this. Like, we're going to help with the tours. We're going to give people access. Whoever was involved in January 6th, okay? And then it got out of hand. And then everyone started texting Trump, you got to stop this. You have to make a statement. You have to do something. I feel like that's what's happening now is all these fucking Republicans were just fine with all of this until it got out of hand. Like, I'm sorry. I give a little bit of props to the story we're going to cover about the governor, the gubernatorial candidate that's backing out. But he knew who all these people were when he went to run as a Republican in the beginning. Somehow this hit home. But I'm just saying now feels like that time where people are like, this has gone too far. And we had that same thing happen with January 6th.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They're going to try and rewrite this shit. They're going to try and rewrite it. We have to remember what's happening right now. And when we get the powers that be back, we have to hold every single fucking person accountable. Every one of them.
I agree. And Bovino leaving is a small step in that, at least leaving Minneapolis. He needs to be removed, fired, and prosecuted.
Absolutely.
Homeland Security Democrats, by the way, just tweeted, "In fairness, Greg Bovino is the easiest by size to throw under the bus." So well done there, Homeland Security Democrats. I like that very much.
Yeah. Hey, nothing against short kings, but we don't want to short Himmler. All right. This one's from the El Paso Times. I had to keep my comedian brain had to shut off just now. Governor Greg Abbott reacted to the latest events out of Minnesota, and they revealed that the White House, and I quote, is working on a game plan to recalibrate immigration and customs enforcement. Abbott made the comments on the Mark Davis show. This was Monday, January 26th, just happened, while speaking on the podcast about the Texas winter storm, the state's upcoming primaries, and the protests in Minnesota. When asked by Davis whether he was, and I quote, concerned that ICE's popularity ratings are going down, Abbott responded that the White House needs to recalibrate. And listen, I don't agree with anything Abbott does. The fact that he's even speaking out and even in a little bit saying that they're doing something wrong is something.
Right. I mean, we know ICE can't be recalibrated. It has to be abolished. But
100%.
For Greg Abbott, the guy who puts razor wire on buoys in the Rio Grande.
Exactly. Well said, my friend. And this is what he said. They, being the White House, need to recalibrate on what needs to be done to make sure that respect is going to be reinstilled. Abbott said that on a podcast. That's not an easy task, especially under the current circumstances. But I know that they, the White House, are working on a game plan. I'm sure they have fucking concepts of a plan, Abbott, on a game plan to make sure that they are going to recalibrate and maybe work from a different direction to ensure that they get back to get what they wanted to do. Sorry, this is a quote, everybody. And to begin with. And that is to remove people from the country. I think you need to be a little more specific, Greg Abbott, not just remove people from the country. Yeah. And from Politico, by the way, this is a related story. Former Vice President Mike Pence on Monday called video footage of the shooting of Alex Pretti in Minnesota deeply troubling as he urged a full investigation into the deadly incident. He said, in the wake of the tragic shooting that claimed the life of Alex Pretti this weekend, our prayers are with his family, the citizens of Minneapolis, and local, state, federal law enforcement officers serving there. That's what Pence said on Twitter. He said, the images of this incident are deeply troubling, and a full and transparent investigation of this officer-involved shooting must take place immediately. Who's sounding like a Democrat all of a sudden, Mike Pence?
He sounded like a guy who's trying to steal all the members of the Heritage Foundation for his own nonprofit think tank, is what he sounds like.
Yep. GOP Senators Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, they all called for an independent probe into the shooting, with Cassidy arguing the integrity of ICE and the Department of Homeland Security are at stake. Yeah, no shit. That's a little bit too late for that. However gentle and equivocal the pushback might be, it is growing increasingly conspicuous as congressional Republicans privately discuss how to respond to Trump's aggressive immigration enforcement campaign ahead of the midterm elections, because this is going to affect them. Some Republicans have been privately warning administration officials and GOP leaders for months that the operation is not going over well in some pockets of the country. Yeah, no shit. And I quote, many of us wonder if the administration has any clue as to how much this will hurt us legislatively and electorally this year. That's from House Republican. One House Republican granted anonymity because these people are fucking cowards and are not going to say it out loud. They gave him that so he could candidly discuss that with the press.
Yeah, this is almost like remember when I talked about the reckoning, when Republicans who have to be reelected again have to break from Trump?
Yeah.
In order to please their constituents. This is another one of those cases. All right, next up, Democratic Senator Jacky Rosen is calling for the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, saying she believes Noem is attempting to mislead the American public about the fatal shooting of a 37-year-old protester in Minneapolis, as we know, Alex Pretti. And that's, I wouldn't say fatal shooting, I would say execution.
Absolutely.
The call from Rosen, a moderate, very moderate from Nevada, who was part of the group that helped Republicans end the 43-day government shutdown last year, comes amid a growing fury from congressional Democrats who have also vowed to block funding for Homeland Security. A House resolution to launch impeachment proceedings against Noem has the support of more than 100 Democrats, but few Senate Democrats have so far weighed in. And while some moderate Democrats have been wary over the last year of criticizing the Trump administration on border and immigration issues, the fatal shootings in Minneapolis of Alex Pretti and Renee Good on January 7th have transformed the debate, even among moderates like Jacky Rosen. Calls for Noem's impeachment grew louder in the House as well, as the Democratic caucus had a phone call with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison, both former congressmen, according to a person familiar with that private call. New York Rep. Laura Gillen, a Democrat who was one of only 7 House Democrats who voted to fund the Department of Homeland Security last week, said Sunday that there must be accountability, which is why Secretary Noem must be impeached immediately. And moderate Dem Tom Suozzi put out a statement that he regrets his vote to fund DHS in the House, saying he didn't realize what he was doing.
It's really hard to believe in, Ari. I can't. Yeah, I just had to take a breath. I was like,
that
okay.
Pregnant pause was stunned silence.
It really was. Yeah. Okay. This one's from CNN. Chris Madel. Is it Madel? Madel?
I'm not sure. I have no idea who this fellow is.
All right. We're going to say Chris Madel, a Minneapolis lawyer who represented the immigration agent who fatally shot Renee Good, said Monday that he was ending his Republican campaign for... Oh, okay. He's ending his Republican campaign for governor of Minnesota after a second protester was killed by federal authorities. This is really interesting. He's the lawyer that was representing...
Jonathan Ross.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know
quote,
that either. Somebody pointed that out to me on Blue Sky. Was like,
holy
represented
shit.
what? Represented who? He's running for
know.
governor. They're like, yeah, no, he was a lawyer representing. He's a lawyer representing Jonathan Ross.
Oh my God. Well, now I wonder if this is the only reason he's dropping out, because of the conflict of interest with his client. Okay. He said, I cannot support the National Republicans' stated retribution on the citizens of our state. This is from Adele, who, in a video message he posted on social media, he said, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. Medell, who was never held elected office, launched his candidacy in December as a political outsider and a fierce defender of law enforcement. One of the nearly a dozen candidates in the Republican primary for governor, Medell, and he'd actually been endorsed by the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis. He gained attention this month for providing legal representation to Jonathan Ross. As we know, that's the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent who murdered Good, a 37-year-old Minneapolis woman, on January 7th.
Why wouldn't you continue to run as the Republican and be like, I'm against
That's my question. Yeah, no shit. You had an opportunity here, and I feel like he dropped the ball. But, and I quote, Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threat. This is Medell in a message. He said, United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. He said, too many U.S. citizens in Minnesota have been detained by ICE due to the color of their skin. At least he's talking about this being a race issue. I'm actually shocked.
Yeah,
he also assailed the Department of Homeland Security's move to enter homes without a criminal warrant, as revealed in that whistleblower complaint that we covered here on the Beans.
You sure you're a Republican, bro?
I know. What in the world is going on? Now, he said driving while Hispanic is not a crime. Neither is driving while Asian. Can we listen to these messages, please, and pick some of them up? I'd appreciate it. Now, Medell appeared to be gaining ground, often finishing in the top share of Republican challengers in unofficial party straw polls. No Republican candidate has won a statewide election in Minnesota since 2006. Wow, a fact Medell noted in his video message. He said national Republicans have made it nearly impossible for a Republican to win a statewide election in Minnesota. You guys are fucking us over here. That's
Wow.
I mean, those messaging, good for him on the messaging. That's all I have to say.
Why don't you reform your party? Why don't you
Exactly.
I'm a Republican who believes in this, like Liz Cheney or, whatever.
Agreed.
Anyway, interesting. Dropped out of the race completely. Next up from NBC, investigators are reviewing body camera videos from immigration agents and after the fatal shooting of Alex Pretti. That's according to a DHS spokesperson. They have it. They have the body-worn camera footage. Homeland Security investigators have videos recorded by cameras worn by multiple agents. That's according to Tricia McLaughlin. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said, every video will be analyzed. Everything will be looked at. Sure. Okay. As part of the investigation into Pretty's death, President Donald Trump said his administration is reviewing everything about the shooting. Trump announced Monday morning he's sending border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota. As we said, he's going to manage ICE on the ground. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, a fierce critic of Donald Trump and the administration, said, if Tom Homan is here to engage constructively with local leaders and find common ground, I welcome that conversation. My door's open. If his visit is instead focused on escalating tensions or spreading misinformation, Minneapolis doesn't need that here. DHS's immigration officers, they've shot 12 people since September, as the federal agency has dramatically increased deportation operations nationwide.
Thanks, Allison. This one's from NBC. Donald Trump loyalist Lindsay Halligan, a former insurance attorney who we've covered in depth, who brought 2 unsuccessful cases against 2 of the president's perceived enemies, is no longer a Justice Department employee. This is from 2 sources that are familiar. This is what they told NBC News. Halligan, who lacked any prior prosecutorial experience, stepped down last week from her proclaimed role as interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, a position a judge found she unlawfully held. Okay, she stepped down. It was not entirely clear last week whether Halligan would assume a new role at the Justice Department, as Alina Habba did after a federal appeals court judges upheld her disqualification as acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey in December. Funny how all of his lawyers are losing their position.
That they never really had in the first place.
I know, they gave themselves. 2 sources familiar with the matter said Halligan is no longer a Justice Department employee. It's unclear whether she has a new job outside of the Justice Department. A federal judge ruled last week.
Going back to South Beach Toe.
The federal judge ruled last week that Halligan had to stop masquerading as the Eastern District's top federal prosecutor. U.S. District Judge David Novak, it's a 2019 Trump nominee, said he would allow Halligan to avoid attorney disciplinary proceedings into whether she misrepresented herself to the court in light of her inexperience. I'm sorry you're so dumb we can't hold you accountable.
Too dumb to disbar.
Unbelievable. He said the court recognizes that Ms. Halligan lacks the prosecutorial experience that has long been the norm for those nominated to the position of United States Attorney in this district. He went on to say, consequently, and in light of her inexperience, the court grants Ms. Halligan the benefit of the doubt and refrains from referring her for further investigation and disciplinary action regarding her misrepresentations to this court at the time. Now, both Haba and Halligan had previously served as personal attorneys, as we know, for the president, as have other top Justice Department employees. So,
Oh, all right. Bye. I wonder where she's going. She doesn't work for DOJ anymore. She'll probably have some weird special something czar, insurance czar.
Maybe she's probably going to be a Fox News analyst.
I don't know. She could be working at the White House. Who knows what they'll do with her? Maybe they'll make her the administrator of Doge.
Maybe.
All right, everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with that interview that I did with Adam Klasfeld about the hearing that happened on Monday about ICE in Minneapolis. Stick around. We'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
DeleteMe makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Because I have so much presence online, I cannot pretend the risks are hypothetical. Data breaches happen constantly, and the pattern is depressingly familiar. Names, addresses, phone numbers, last 4 digits of social security numbers, even masked bank account numbers get exposed. After that, data brokers move in. They swoop it all up. Your information becomes a product, and anyone on the web can buy your private details like it's nothing. That's how you end up dealing with identity theft, phishing attempts, and doxing and harassment. DeleteMe helps you get out of that pipeline. Data brokers can collect your name, contact info, social security number, addresses, information about your family members, and then sell it on broker sites. DeleteMe takes on the hard part by removing your information from those sites. So you sign up, tell them exactly what you want removed, and bam, they begin to take care of it for you. New York Times Wirecutter named DeleteMe their top pick for data removal services. And that makes sense to me. The point is simple. DeleteMe helps me stay public-facing for work without making it easy for strangers to buy my address and other personal details online. Privacy matters, and DeleteMe makes protecting it realistic. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for DeleteMe. Now at a special discount for listeners, get 20% off your DeleteMe plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/dailybeans and use promo code dailybeans at checkout. Again, the only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/dailybeans and enter code dailybeans at checkout. joindeleteme.com/dailybeans, code dailybeans.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Allison Gill. Joining me today, Adam Klasfeld from All Rise News, which you must support because he is doing important work on the ground, including traveling on Wednesday to go and listen to the very anticipated vindictive and selective prosecution hearing in the Abrego case in Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And I'm really very interested to see, because the judge hasn't moved that hearing, even though the government was like, we're not ready. We don't have to provide privilege logs. We don't have to tell you about Jinx and our witnesses because it's not a real hearing or whatever their argument is. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But first I want to tackle. But anyway, the whole point was you got to support Adam Klasfeld because he pays for all this travel himself. He doesn't have any corporate overlords. So what I want to talk to you about before we get to Mr. Abrego and that hearing, what to expect in that hearing on Wednesday, is a hearing this morning in federal court in Minneapolis, where this was a request for a preliminary injunction or a temporary restraining order that was actually filed in December, before what happened with Alex Pretti, before what happened with Renee Good. And this was, the city and the state trying to say, hey, we're a sovereign, we can't have the feds coming in and telling us how to do this, and wanting a restraining order to basically stop what's going on while the court decides whether what's going on is legal or violative of the 10th Amendment or violative of other statutes and laws or supremacy or commandeering, the anti-commandeering doctrine, which is part of the 10th Amendment. And so that was their argument today. And the judge really grilled Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis, but also really grilled the government. She was very thorough. So can you, Adam, talk to us briefly about what went down in this hearing, how it might impact what remedy Minnesota and Minneapolis are seeking from the court here? Because it seemed to hinge on the government's argument generally being they're not helping us with what we're doing for immigration, and their sanctuary policies are hindering our law enforcement. So that's why we had to send 4,000, 2,000, 4,000. They had a disagreement about how many people to Minnesota. And Minnesota's like, yeah, but you're also taking away, you're costing us money. You're taking away our services for Minnesotans. It's violative of our rights, et cetera, as a sovereign state. So talk a little bit about what you come away with from this hearing today.
My main takeaway from this hearing is that Pam Bondi may have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second, but that this was a very tough row to hoe for the state of Minnesota. This was a lawsuit under the 10th Amendment, broadly the state's rights amendment, but I'm going to read the actual text of it here. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. And before Pam Bondi sent a letter to Tim Walz saying, we would like you to change 3 of your policies that are against the agenda of this government, it was very difficult to form a case that a surge of federal law enforcement in the Twin Cities was not reserved to the federal government. That is to say, federal government controls federal immigration. At what point does the sheer volume of it, and this was the state's argument, this was the Twin Cities argument, at what level, when you have 4,000 people, when you have 10,000 people and city resources are diverted, at what point is this an intrusion on your sovereignty? And that was a very tough question. What made it a more viable fight is that Pam Bondi sends a letter to Tim Walz saying, we don't like 3 of your policies. We want you to give us all of your records on SNAP benefits, food assistance programs. We want you to give us your voter data, which whenever they have sued for that in court, they've lost, very convincingly lost those lawsuits. And also, we don't like your sanctuary policies. Another policy where they are racking up defeats, saying, with the court saying that the states have the right to pass laws that govern their policies, that govern that their legislatures are in charge of this. So they're losing these legal battles. And the judge asks, is it your position that it doesn't matter how clear and this is the quote, quid pro quo is, that it never amounts to a violation of the 10th Amendment's anti-commandeering doctrine, which in essence is the doctrine that the federal government cannot force the states to pass a law or enforce the federal government's regulatory agenda. And that's what states' rights is all about. So if Pam Bondi did not send a letter to Tim Walz demanding 3 policy changes and expressly linking it to the surge in the Twin Cities, I think right now the judge still is skeptical about her power to intervene on something that's as core federal government as sending federal law enforcement into a city. I think it would be a ruling that would break new ground. What makes her even consider it is the fact that Pam Bondi has sent this letter, that Donald Trump went on Truth Social and said, Minnesota, your day of retribution is here. And when reading that quote, the attorney for the state of Minnesota said, I'm trying to imitate him as best I can. That's crazy. I mean, he was emphatic, and it is crazy.
Yeah. And, I had put on a Blue Sky yesterday when Bondi had written this letter. I said, if Trump is willing to remove ICE from Minnesota if they hand over their voter rolls, then there really isn't an immigration emergency that needs them there in the first place. And I was like, hey, lawyers, check this out. This is interesting, because I thought that was interesting too. It just happened to me today, Adam. I wanted to cancel a car reservation, but I had booked a non-refundable reservation. And when I called, I didn't know I did that. When I called to see if I could modify the reservation, the guy goes, our policy is you can't modify your reservation even if your mom died. That's what he said to me. Now, as it turns out, I'm visiting my aging mother. And I was totally fine with having to pay. If he had just said, you booked a non-refundable thing, and so we can't modify it. But because he added that on there, the lady, his supervisor, was like, I'm so sorry, we'll modify your reservation, and we're sorry that we said that. That's what this Bondi letter is. Like, if you would have just left it alone, Minnesota would have a bigger uphill battle here. But because of that, and because of Trump's Minnesota, your retribution is here, I think it's going to be, and I know you and I were texting back and forth during this hearing. I'm like, boy, she's really hammering on this this Bondi letter. It seems that this is a giant problem for this administration. But talk a little bit about that. I thought it was interesting. The judge kind of asked both sides. Like, if I were to say this was violative of the 10th Amendment because of the coercion that might exist because of Pam Bondi's letter and the quid pro quo, what would that look like, right? And so there was a little back and forth about that. If this letter shows enough coercion or detracts from the real issue, what would that relief look like, Adam? And also, I thought it was interesting that the judge sort of tried to drill down on what immigration policies are not being followed, what policies, sanctuary city policies, are not being followed that this surge remedies. And so, I mean, I think there were parking lots, like Minnesota wasn't letting them use public parking lots to stage their operations. I think they wouldn't hand over their driver's license stuff from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and a detainers issue, which has actually kind of been proven false. And so I think what she was getting at there was, how does sending 4,000 people to Minnesota alleviate those specific issues as part of your central argument? What did you think of that particular exchange?
Well, so to take the questions there in order, she asked point blank about her power. What kind of relief can she grant? And she asks that point blank to Minnesota's lawyer, who responded that the simplest answer is to end Operation Metro Surge as defined by the federal government. That is the request. Now, to take a step back here, we need to remember Judge Menendez is the same judge who issued a much more modest order that basically said, stop violating the rights of protesters. And it had some more clarity about the circumstances during which they could use pepper spray, things like that. That order was overturned by the Eighth Circuit. She is now being presented with a request for, well, not overturned, paused by the Eighth Circuit. She is now being presented with a request for a more sweeping order that says, halt this operation. So she is treading very carefully here. And
because of what the Eighth Circuit did with her narrower order about telling ICE what they probably shouldn't do.
Right, because a federal judge's power is limited. And the fact that we are discussing this as a viable request, and I think this is a potentially viable request, is a testament to how big of a screw-up Bondi's letter is, because it provides that opening. That said, to your other point, she really drilled down and interrogated, okay, you, the federal government, you DOJ attorney, are telling me that this isn't a quid pro quo. This isn't a shakedown, in the words of the Minnesota attorney. This isn't coercion. This is just the fact that, you know what, these policies by this blue state get in the way of law enforcement, and therefore we need 2,000 to 4,000 officers. And she's saying, okay, well, show me the nexus between you're getting voter data and how does that complicate your ability to conduct immigration enforcement in the state of Minnesota. Tell me how your ability to, the sanctuary policies have actually stood in the way of your effort to effect lawful arrests when the occasion warrants. And so she was really drilling down on that. And so in terms of
how does 4,000 people on the streets alleviate the fact that you haven't handed over your voter roll?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is that she throughout the hearing has expressed her skepticism about the reaches of her power. The fact that, this is going to go to the Eighth Circuit. She's going to tread very carefully here when asked for such sweeping relief. But she is also saying she is developing a record. And she asked at one point to the attorney for the state of Minnesota that, what if we do this? What would happen if, because the state of Minnesota said, we need this today, another person is dead, this is an emergency, it can't wait another day, it can't wait another week, it can't wait another month, we need it now. And she said, what if I denied a request for a temporary restraining order and we developed a record for a preliminary injunction? Because again, this kind of order has never been issued before, and it would be immediately appealed. And if it were immediately appealed, there could be a quick stay. If she sees a viable legal basis to challenge this because of Pam Bondi's letter, because of Trump's Truth Social post, what if we develop a record, make this more airtight, and grapple with these serious issues? And there's what's happening inside the court and what's happening outside the court. Just today, we had a phone call between Donald Trump and Tim Walz, and the readout from Tim Walz's side makes it sound like they're seriously considering withdrawing a lot of the federal agents from the city and allowing state investigators to take part in both of the pending investigations, in Renee Good's case and in Alex Pretti's case. So we may be overtaken by other events. There's been a great national reaction. Trump realizes how wildly unpopular this is. He has shaken the conscience of this nation. There are people in the streets, and he has alienated defenders of the Second Amendment. People who defend the right to bear arms have been shaken by the cabinet members' stance on the Alex Pretti case. The notion that if you are a lawful gun owner and federal agents are threatened by that, even if you're not holding the gun, even if you're not brandishing, as the administration was lying about, that the federal agents have some sort of right to shoot you, that has shaken some of Trump's base. So whatever happens from this court, whether she feels that she has the authority to grant certain relief, she might not. She's more interested in getting these legal issues right on appeal than rushing through something that's fake, that isn't supported by the evidentiary record, when she's going to break new ground, because we haven't had a case like this where the federal government says, I'm going to put thousands of, masked, camouflage wearing officers on your streets until our agenda is obeyed by your state officials. That's never happened. And I think that Judge Menendez is really grappling now with how to deal with that.
Right. And that sort of fighting that legal battle would also impact other potential future cities where surges happen and quid pro quos are offered. I'm sure they might not, after this hearing, make it so obvious this time. But you're right. We have other things going on outside. We had the call with Walz. We have a Republican gubernatorial candidate withdrawing from the race because of what's going on with ICE. We have the House Dems regretting their vote in the House to fund the DHS spending bill. We've got Tim Pool saying that this is, an execution. We've got Bartiromo is on Fox News taking Bovino to task. I've never seen anything like this. Now, it probably comes from the Second Amendment argument that a lot of the base is making about this. Fine. I kind of don't care where it comes from, but it's definitely interesting to see that develop outside of the courtroom, but to watch Judge Menendez want to make those, maybe perhaps answer those legal questions, because I don't think we've seen the end of this kind of thing.
Right.
You're going to write all this up, I'm sure, for All Rise News. Yeah.
There's a quick hit on the website right now, and there's going to be more to come. I mean, there's plenty of analysis. A lot has emerged in there. There's, just even something that isn't a headline of the story. She asked the state of Minnesota point blank, hey guys, remember that whistleblower report that said that ICE believes that it has the power to enter people's properties without a judicial warrant, a judge-signed warrant? Why didn't you file a lawsuit about that? There are things that are developing there. And I think one of her hesitations here, especially given recent experience of the appellate court pausing her order, is there are many bases to, the courts cannot always be a deus ex machina and say, I will end the whole constellation of problems that is facing the city. They can deal with a case and controversy such as, is this secret memo that has come to light lawful? Is this practice of violating the civil rights of protesters, can that be constrained? And I think she is skeptical of the more sweeping requests to make it all go away. Now, again, and I need to emphasize this, the fact that Pam Bondi has implicitly justified this whole thing on policy provides a potential opening to that. And that should be watched because, again, I think I would not have necessarily supposed that this request was viable until today, until I saw that questioning, until I saw that memo. But generally speaking, the constellation of legal battles that are playing out right now, the ones over the civil rights violations, the ones over the preservation of evidence filed by the state to make sure that, for example, Alex Pretti's cell phone is kept in order, that we eventually see the perspective when he was taping the Border Patrol officers, what other evidence that may exist, their body cam footage. That is a case that is playing out potentially. I forget the exact timing, but I think it could be going on
right now.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 p.m. Central Time, which is 20 minutes ago. So that hearing is happening right now. He issued that temporary restraining order, and then they're having the hearing on it today.
Right.
So we'll follow All Rise News to see how that comes out. And for a write-up on the hearing this morning, there's already a quick hit on All Rise News on it. And before I let you go, I know you were getting ready to pack and travel to the Middle District of Tennessee. Do I have that correct? Where you are going to be attending a hearing I have been anticipating and following and waiting for very closely. It is the vindictive and selective prosecution hearing for Mr. Abrego in his criminal case, in which it is now the burden is on the government to prove that they are not vindictively prosecuting. There's been a lot of back and forth on the docket because Abrego's lawyers are like, well, we need Jenks information on these witnesses. We need statements. We need privilege logs and things like that. The government is saying, we said that we were going to give you that in court, but we were wrong. This isn't a trial, technical hearing under Rule 26.2 or something like that. So we don't have to provide you with that. So we're not going to. So now I don't think that Abrego's team is sufficiently prepared to rebut whatever the government's witnesses say in court on Wednesday. That will make it interesting as well when that hearing happens, because the judge has refused to change the hearing. It's been moved a zillion times. So talk about what we can anticipate on Wednesday. And again, All Rise News will be there.
Thank you so much, Allison. Well, what is happening Wednesday, as you said, is an evidentiary hearing. We're going to hear testimony from the government to try to overcome the presumption of vindictiveness that has attached to the government by virtue of the fact that Todd Blanche went on TV and said that the investigation into Kilmar Abrego Garcia began because a judge questioned their decision to whisk him out of the country without any due process and into CCOT, where people have been routinely tortured and where Abrego himself reported torture. That the fact that that was what Todd Blanche said was the genesis of the investigation, that's the definition of vindictive prosecution, and it led Judge Crenshaw to order this hearing, which has been delayed multiple times. Now, the government will try to persuade the judge that there's a genuine reason. They're going to say that they're going to talk about the offenses charged, which is smuggling allegations, not trafficking allegations, as we have reviewed a number of times, Allison and me. And what is going to happen is they're going to have to supply explanations for a bunch of emails that became public late last year that Allison and I talked about, that showed that when acting U.S. attorney of that district, Mr. McGuire, had claimed that he made this decision entirely independently without any interference from Maine Justice. Well, that's not exactly true. We have emails now from Todd Blanche's deputy saying that they're Akash Singh, who said that described waiting for clearance on the draft indictment. We're seeing some level of coordination. They're going to have to supply some sort of explanation for that. That makes it not look like this was essentially a backlash against Abrego in order to chill and to send a message that, hey, if you assert your right, if you challenge the government sending you out of the country to El Salvador to be in prison at a notorious prison, a prison that one judge called one of the most dangerous prisons in the Western Hemisphere, and because you challenge that, we're going to prosecute you. That is a basis, no matter what, whether the government cannot argue, well, you know what? I can prove this case. I can prove that he smuggled immigrants across state lines and he was involved in this smuggling conspiracy back in 2022. That is irrelevant to the fact of whether the purpose of this prosecution is vindictive. Whether or not he's guilty of the crime is up to a jury. But whether he is being prosecuted for the purpose of sending a message of don't defend your rights, that's why there are prohibitions on vindictive prosecution. So I'll be covering the testimony, I'll be covering the evidence, and I'll be covering what the judge says. We'll see if he rules from the bench. More likely he's going to rule in a ruling, but in any event, we're going to see what happens in court because this is the first real test, and Abrego has gone farther than anyone else on this issue. There have been other motions for vindictive prosecution, but the fact that he's having this hearing is a victory and gives him the greater odds at this point. We'll see what pans out on Wednesday.
Yeah, as does the fact that because Todd Blanche opened his big fat mouth on Fox News, there is a prima facie showing of vindictiveness, which now shifts the burden to the government to prove that they're not vindictively prosecuting him. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to run this whole interview, by the way, all the audio, over on tomorrow's Daily Beans podcast. If you guys want news that informs you without stressing you out, might include some appropriate profanity, women-run organization. If you want that kind of news, please check out the Daily Beans. It's free. It's every morning. It's free. It gives you all your headlines up front. And then if that's good enough, you can stop. Then we break them down a little bit. And then at the end, we actually do some good news from listeners so that you can kind of walk away feeling a little bit better about the world. Again, it's a free podcast. It's been out there for a long time, but if you've not listened to it, please check it out. It's called The Daily Beans. And if you are able to support All Rise News, you can have a paid subscription to Adam Klasfeld's Substack so that you can help support him and his travel to get all of this information to you as quickly as possible before DHS comes and lies about it first. That kind of truth and knowledge is super important, especially the speed of it and the on-the-ground nature of it during these times. That's super, super important because of the DHS's propaganda machine and the right-wing noise machine, and that corporate media is not helping us too much. So if you're able to support All Rise News, please do. You can also subscribe to my Substack. It's free to do as well, and never any paywalls. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to what goes on. And I wish I could be there with you in Tennessee this Wednesday to see what happens on the ground in the Abrego case.
Well, we'll talk about it soon, I'm certain.
Yes, we will. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to The Breakdown. We'll see you next time.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, everyone. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the idea of learning a new language, you are not alone. A lot of people start with big intentions, and then life gets busy, and the habit sort of disappears. But Babbel is one of the first apps I've tried that feels like it was designed to reflect real schedules and real life, not imaginary ones. Babbel makes it easy to start and even easier to keep going. The lessons are bite-sized, so you can fit them in at a lunch break or those 10 minutes before you start your day. And because the content is built by over 200 language experts, it stays focused on words and phrases you'll actually use in real life. No filler that wastes your time. So I use Babbel in the way that I realistically learn, which is in short bursts. Some days I do a quick lesson. Other days I focus on speaking practice, because saying things out loud is what turns "I recognize this" into "I can actually use this." That's helped me build a real life conversation skill, and especially for travel and those everyday interactions that matter. Babbel also gives you options beyond the standout lesson format. There are podcasts too, which is great when you want to keep learning, but your brain isn't in full study mode. And however you learn best, by listening, speaking, reading, or writing, Babbel adapts with personalized learning plans, real-time feedback, and progress tracking. It is supportive instead of being overwhelming, which is exactly what I need for when I learn, and that helps me stay consistent. So here's a special limited time deal for listeners. Right now, you get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/dailybeans. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/dailybeans. That's spelled BABBEL.com/dailybeans. Rules and restrictions may apply. Everybody, welcome back. It's time for the good news.
Good news, everyone. Then good news, everyone.
And if you have any good news or good trouble suggestions, send it to us. It can be little, it can be big, it can be, we need to microdose hope. So something that'll put a smile on our faces. We would love to hear from you. It can be a shout out to a government program or a shout out to a loved one or yourself. We love self shout outs here on the Daily Beans. It can be a shout out to a nonprofit you want us to know about, a small business in your area that could use a boost, maybe some good activism that you see happening in your area. And all you got to do to get your good news or good trouble read on the air is submit your pod pet tariff, which means attach a photo of your pet. If you don't have a pet, any photo will do, really. You could send an adoptable pet in your area. You can grab a random photo of an animal on the internet. You can send us family photos, baby pictures, photos of what you're making or creating, whether you're knitting or crocheting or raising chickens or goats. Goats. Picture of what you're growing in your garden, some signs you've seen at a rally, overpass signs that you really appreciate, whatever it is that'll put a smile on our face, send it to us, dailybeanspod.com, and click on contact. First up is your good trouble. And your good trouble today comes from a friend of ours, Charlotte Clymer, who posted on Blue Sky. If you're looking for ways to support organizations and mutual aid projects on the ground in Minnesota, here's a great directory for exactly that. It's standwithminnesota.com. We'll have a link in the show notes. It's a hub for supporting learning and taking action to support Minnesotans impacted by ICE and federal enforcement. The site was created by Ashley Fairbanks from crowdsourced funds. It's got lists on who to follow and how to stay informed about what's happening on the ground, action items, extensive categorized lists for mutual aid, materials purchasing, crowdfunding campaigns. So give it a look and see where you can help. Charlotte, thank you for posting that.
Always thank you, Charlotte. All right, this is from Julie, pronouns she and her. Hello, Beans Queens. Greetings from Minneapolis. Hi, Julie. It's been a very difficult time here, as you almost know by now, but our community is resilient and has come together in the most amazing way. On Friday, January 23rd, we had 50,000 people in the streets in negative 20-degree weather protesting ICE and a general strike. No work, no school, no shopping. It worked. The mood was exuberant and cohesive. No police in sight. Then came Saturday morning and the murder of Alex Pretti by ICE. Once again, we take to the streets. I'm sending photos of the crowd at Target Center in a small action of just 5 of us on a bridge of a busy highway near our home. Big and small actions. I love our city. I've also included a pic of our dog, Bruno, on the coldest of days.
That's a cool photo, by the way, with the shadows on the freeway. Look at that.
Yeah.
All are welcome here. Thank you so much, Julie, for that. And congrats on all your work. Bovino's leaving. I hope that's the start of everyone leaving and leaving Minneapolis the fuck alone. Next up from Loose Pins. Hello, Beans Queens. Longtime listener. You're my first audio journey of the day. Thank you for all you do. Thanks for coming on the journeys with us, Loose Pins. This is a shout out to many of the people on an email distribution list that I started back in 2016 offering actions for people who, like me, needed to learn how to become an activist and resist this horrible regime. Who knew we'd actually be getting the chance to live out our answers to the theoretical question, what would I have done had I lived in Nazi Germany in 1939? But here we are, and I'm glad we have each other at least. Anywho, after canvassing almost every weekend in 2024, learned a lot, don't regret a minute, I took a little break from my emails last year, but I've revved back up in full gear, and man, are the folks on my list raring to go. Many went from, I could never canvass, I get claustrophobic in crowds, I don't know what to say to congressional staffers, to carpooling volunteers to leaflet and knock on doors, marshaling at protests, and just today, calling the entire roster of Democratic senators to urge them to vote no on the upcoming Senate budget vote. There's power in activism. There's only despair in being passive. To the whole Leguminati community, these are dark days. But I'm taking comfort and taking heart in the leaders that are rising to meet this moment. Hint, they're not in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get through this. I don't know what it will look like on the other side, but I keep reminding myself that every time something this big and fundamental gets broken, as in our democracy, there's a chance to build it back stronger and form a foundation where every human is counted as full human and not 3/5 of a man. Stay strong, don't give up. For extra grace, I offer an amazing piece penned by Matt Moberg, chaplain of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I saw this on social media.
Mm-hmm.
For Pod Pet Tax, I offer a picture of me with the elephant I adopted in 2017 as a counterbalance when Twat Waffle appointed a big game hunter to head the National Wildlife Conservation Fund. I got to meet her in December, and I'm forever changed by being so near her life force. Elephants are amazing creatures.
This is incredible. Oh my God. Now I want to adopt an elephant. Loose Pins.
I know. So here's one excerpt from the statement from the chaplain of the Timberwolves. If you're a church posting prayers for peace and unity today while my city bleeds in the street, miss me with that softness you only wear when it costs you nothing.
Wow.
Don't dress avoidance up as holiness. Don't call silence peacemaking. The whole thing is worth reading. By the way, we'll have a link in the show notes to it. Look at the elephant. Look at the beautiful
That's incredible.
Elephant.
What a joyful
Always reminds
moment.
me, every time I see an elephant, I'm reminded of the Mama's Family or what was it with the elephant story with Tim Conway and Vicki Lawrence was like, is that asshole through yet? I fall on the floor laughing along with Dick Van Dyke whenever I think of that. But elephants are just gorgeous, beautiful creatures. Thank you so much for that.
I miss all of them. All right, this is from Alphonse, pronoun they. Out to Vegas for work during these horrible times. Stopped by the Lego store for some perusing, and on my way out, I was greeted by this shit show. Keep up the good fight. We've got a bird watching picture flipping off Trump International. Alphonse, thank you so much. And from Diane, pronouns she and her, shout out to my hubby Bill for facilitating some self-care after this terrible weekend. Microwave chocolate cake in a mug. Pod pet 100% tariff, our ever noble River.
Oh, River's beautiful. And I love your daily beans mug with your
I know, right?
cake in a mug. I got to try some cake in a mug. I didn't know that was a thing. All right. Here we have our final closing submission from Maureen, pronouns she and her. Beans team. I just completely lost it. Screamed. Ran into my sleeping stepson's room, completely forgetting he was there, to get my jersey out of his closet where we store costumes and off-season clothes. I accidentally woke him up. I yelled sorry about 30 times and then ran out and slammed the door when I heard AG playing roller derby with a derby named Shimatoma. I used to play with Charm City Roller Derby back in the day with the same derby name.
That's wild.
I got it because I was a walking hematoma. It's 100% true that roller derby is one of the most amazing and unusual communities we have. Not only did I meet lifelong friends, learn about my own and others' resilience, and get into the best physical shape of my life, I also had the chance to meet folks in other countries who played. Because of roller derby, I skated around a beautiful bike path in the desert outside of Dubai and around the streets of Belize, definitely confusing the locals in both cases. Although Charm has gone defunct, those are some of my most treasured memories. I also was a trackside medic for the Patuxent roller derby, Patuxent, I don't know if I'm saying that right or wrong, led by my friend Sarah Jane under the name Angioplasty. Angioplasty.
That's fantastic. I feel like roller derby names are a lot like drag queen names.
They are. They are. Have you seen Erica's Quirk, by the way?
Oh, yes, I have.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you both for bringing sanity and a coherent emotional response to the news every day. For my pod pet Tariff, my dog Daisy, a blank, looks like a beagle.
Does look like a beagle.
I've also included one of me in my jersey from 2018. Love you all. Keep the faith. We will overcome. Look, Shimatoma 735. Woo, woo.
So good. So
I
good.
love it. I never actually was able to, I wasn't coordinated enough. I tried. I got the skates. I got the name. I went and I went and I went. And I wasn't good. So I just hung out with everybody instead.
Oh my God. So good.
All right. So what kind of dog is this? Let's see. A Beagle Basset Hound mix. Oh, that's a great mix. Kind of reminds me of Lucy, Anna Bauer's Beagle.
Mm-hmm.
So cute.
So
incredible.
Cute.
I love that you ran into the room. I'm sorry. You had to get your Shimatoma jersey. That's so fantastic. Everyone, thank you so much for your good news. Please flood us with your good news. Send it to us, dailybeanspod.com. And click on contact. Any good trouble suggestions you might have. I would love to see about setting up Zoom calls between Minneapolis resistors and resistors in other cities where ICE is coming to learn best practices. I'm going to think more about that. Do you have any final thoughts?
I do. That's not true. I do have a couple of things. I've got some shows that have been announced, and I realized I just updated my schedule. One of the cities that you can get tickets for right now is Dallas, Texas, and it is the day, I believe it's May 20th, which is Mother's Day. So for those of you that have children, or if you are a parent of any gender and you celebrate that day, the show's at 6 p.m. and it's going to be at the Dallas Comedy Club. So go to danagoldberg.com. I realize I haven't really announced them, but they are on sale, Dallas. So come out and support live comedy. Come see me. Let's celebrate Parents' Day together and get some laughs, especially if you're done with your children and you're ready for some laughter and alcohol, or not alcohol. But all my shows right now are on danagoldberg.com.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, everyone go see Dana if you haven't. It's pretty amazing. I do have a little bit of good news. I got this on Saturday, so I just wasn't kind of in the mood to understand all of it. But apparently, the San Diego Democrats for Equality are giving me the Gloria Steinem Award for Communications this Saturday, February 7th.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I also just lied to all the listeners. The show is on May 10th, not May 20th.
You're a liar. You're such a liar. Can't believe anything you say. God.
I know. Allison, that's awesome.
Thank you. I was like, what? Who? The what? Because, Saturday was just such a
day.
But thank you so much to the San Diego Democrats for Equality. Great LGBTQ plus forward community
I'm so
organizing.
proud of you.
The awards are going to be at Rich's, which is a gay club I've been going to since.
Oh yeah, I know Rich's.
You know Rich's. God, since '97 probably was my first time going to Rich's. My
Yeah.
God, it'll be interesting and just totally on. Gloria Steinem Award for Communication. So thank you.
That's amazing.
Everyone, thank you so very much. And we will be back in your ears tomorrow. Until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health, and take care of your family. I've been AG.
I've been DG.
And them's the beans.
The Daily Beans is written and executive produced by Allison Gill, with additional research and reporting by Dana Goldberg. Sound design and editing is by Desiree McFarlane, with art and web design by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios. Music for The Daily Beans is written and performed by They Might Be Giants, and the show is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, please visit mswmedia.com.
MSW Media.